You came to the vision speech here in the office last week? Okay, handful. And then how many of you were in Vegas real time? Okay, awesome. So before we get into our panel, we have a awesome lineup today. I want to talk about some of the core things that came through from the vision speech and just maybe just open the conversation of how you should be thinking as we enter. We're about to finish quarter 1. It's almost over. Isn't that crazy? And I feel like usually once quarter 1 ends, it like is automatically jumps to December. It's like the end of the year. So that is coming rapidly. And so we need to say, well, what could we do the next 90 days to really make sure that we're getting massive momentum in our business? And what are some of the things that we need to be aware of in the market to be able to make the right adjustments and changes? And so these are the numbers that drive the US real estate market. We will send out in the post recap email all of the slides. I've just kind of cherry picked a few of the ones that I like, that I think tells a story. And you should go through and study that data. Now we here at the Utah level do a market update. Johnny does this for us once every quarter. So if you haven't joined on one of those, please do, because he goes through about 150 slides over 90 minutes to show you exactly what's happening here in Utah, but also what's happening on a national scale that's impacting the real estate market. So these things are really important for you to become what I'll call the market economist, right? You want to understand the numbers that drive real estate sales. Now, home sales, we finished about 4.1 million homes sold in 2024. How long ago has it been since we've reached that low of home sales? Yeah, one of the worst real estate markets that we've ever seen, right? And we're approaching those levels. One of the things that Gary pointed out is he's like, we're pretty dang close to the bottom if we not have already bottomed. So that's the good news. The challenge that most agents in this room feel and most agents in the industry is that that means there's less units to be sold per agent, okay? Because if you actually look at agent count has not dropped a lot over the last couple of years. It's actually stayed pretty flat. So a lot of new agents getting into the business. And so that just means that the sides per agent goes down. And that's what creates a lot of friction in our industry. On top of that, if you actually look at home sale appreciation historically, how often do we have negative appreciation in the real estate market? Hardly ever, right? This is the story that we really should be shouting from the rooftops to clients. We understand that affordability is a challenge and we need to have solutions for them. But at the same time, it is the best time to buy real estate. Because when interest rates come down, what is going to happen to our home values? Right? We're going to get more bidding wars or more demand in the buying pool, and that's going to force home values up further. So it's actually better to coach your clients and help them understand the benefit of buying at the current interest rates and then being able to refinance down the road, right? And so just take this into account. This would be a great slide to add to your presentation when you're coaching buyers and helping them to understand what happens historically with home values, okay? Mortgage rates, right? And this is something as well, just to put into perspective. Back in Gary Keller's time, he was sharing interest rates actually had peaked somewhere between 15 to 16% when he was getting into the business, okay? How many of you would like that today? More than double where we're at right now. And so just, again, perspective. Now, here's the thing. Everybody feels like it's super high because we had ultra low interest rates post-COVID, right? So that everybody kind of had that etched in their mind of like, that's the new reality when it wasn't. It was just like a little small blip of time. Whereas the actual norm or average since 1990 is 6%. And if you go all the way back to the 70s, early 70s, it's 7.72%. So we're not far off of the long-term averages. And this is just some perspective on the existing mortgages that are out there. 74% of them have a current rate of below 5%, okay? Now, this is where you've got to be aware. What is one of the biggest challenges for today's sellers? People who are thinking about selling or making a move.
Selling that mortgage rate.
Yep. Right. They're kind of somewhat locked in saying, well, man, this interest rate's so nice. If I sell this home to go buy another home, what's my interest rate going to be at? And how does that change my monthly payment? Right. And so you have to be thinking through this. I'm not going to tell you the answers because we've done it quite a bit, but I want you to be thinking of, well, what are the 5 solutions? If somebody's in that situation, how do I help coach them through that? Now, one place I'll point you towards that can help with that is the Mortgage Hacks playbook that we have, which is on your hot links little link that you can click on, and you can scan the QR code at the front desk to get those. But I would study that playbook because there's 5 to 7 different ways where you can help every potential seller, in most part, is usually also a buyer, right? As soon as they sell, they're usually going to buy. Some of them are going to rent, but most of them are going to buy. So you have to be thinking of that's actually the biggest challenge for them today. So if you can coach them through that and show them different options, you're far more likely to be able to take more listings, okay? So just be aware of that is a potential roadblock that we're facing right now. Now, I just said, well, with all this information, what would Gary say? Now, I don't know exactly what he would say, but I think it'd be something to this, is that shift happens, okay? We wrote the book on shift, and it has the strategies to help you deploy to make sure that you're navigating this market in the best way possible. And you need to focus on lead generation, upgrading your skill set, and then making sure that you just stay in the game. Like, it is really just, you've got to wait out winter. We're in winter season right now from the market. And the reality is it could probably last a little bit longer, probably another 1.5 to 2 years. But those who stay in this, I'm curious, who was in the business kind of 07, 08 timeline? Okay. What happened for agents who stuck with it post 08, like the kind of the depths of that winter market? What happened to their market share? Still here, right? And you have a ton of repeat referral business that's come through from it, right? Because if you can just survive that winter timeline, on the other side, there's a lot of market share for you to be able to gobble up. So that's where I want to talk about, well, 2 things. We're going to have this conversation around some of the top takeaways from Family Reunion. And these are all of the one-pagers that were provided. So I'd highly encourage you go study those. If you're not there, please take 2-3 hours this week to go through each of those one-pagers and decide which of the ones am I going to actually deploy into my business. So these were how the one-pagers are built is Gary does interviews, and then also some of the panel session breakout sessions that they have. They'll have each agent. So these agents that are presenting are some of the top in the country. Okay, they're massively outperforming the market in their area. And they have them define their one-pager, saying, what is your blueprint? How do you do what you do in 5 to 10 steps? And they document it. So this is just playbooks where it will show you in one page how somebody's crushing it. And it makes it easy for you to go replicate that. Okay. So highly encourage it. It is on our hot links page as well, so you can find it on there. And then we'll send this email out after as well. Will you refresh those slides, Emily? Thank you. You just hit the refresh button in the top left corner. Cool. And then slideshow. Thank you. The top right. Thank you. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and bring our panel up. We've got an awesome lineup today. We've got Sarah, we've got Jared, and we've got Coach Cam. So come on up. Now, this is the first session or first family reunion attended for Sarah and Jared. But Cameron, you've been to what, 2, 3 family reunions now?
10.
10?
Yeah.
Started a decade ago.
Well, I had 2 kids during February, so I had to miss those 2. Sadly.
Oh. Sweet. Well, it was interesting because I feel like they had so many. It's crazy how many breakout classes they have, right? It's kind of overwhelming. And just for those who are unfamiliar with the format, is they have a couple general large sessions where they'll have, I don't know how many people they had this year. Did they announce that or mention it? Is it
Almost
10,000? So 10,000 people in one room for the bigger sessions. And then after that, it's almost like you're going to college where you can kind of pick your electives or your curriculum for the rest of the day. And so they'll have these breakout sessions that you can go to where there might be a couple hundred agents in that room, but it's a very hyper specific topic. And they might have, I don't know, 40, 50 breakouts at a given time. So a mass amount of options available. So the reality is you guys probably went to no overlapping breakout sessions. You might maybe one or two, but it's very uncommon. And so I just want to kind of get some of the top takeaways that you guys had from this experience, but maybe just overall, just start with what was the overall experience for this family reunion event so far?
Well, this was my very first family reunion, so everything was amazing. I was just like taking everything in, and I was just a sponge, just trying to absorb everything and trying to take a lot of notes. And I specifically bought this journal from the Luxor gift shop, just so it was specific to family reunion. So I just like all about the notes.
Sweet.
So it was all amazing for me.
Yeah, it was also my first time going, what I hope to be first of many.
Like closer. Is it working?
Hello, hello.
Cool.
Yeah, so it was my first time going as well, and it was like drinking out of a fire hose, but I was still able to get little nuggets of information in every class that I went to, and the value that I was able to get from it, I think far exceeded, the cost that it came to attend.
Yeah, awesome. Cam, I mean, just overall, it's been 10 years that you've been going. So what was your perspective?
So I liked this one. The last two I went to, I don't feel like I learned anything. It was like, I would go to a breakout and I'd be like, I should be teaching that. Not that I know everything, it just, they weren't that good, that insightful. But this time I felt like every time I went to something, I'm like, man, these are incredible people at the top of their game, teaching like, not even just tactical ideas, but like modeling out who to be. Like I went to one that had probably 3 of the top 10 teams in Keller Williams, and they're on stage just answering questions, and the room was almost empty because there were so many good sessions all at the
Yeah.
same time. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the hard thing is there were, 4 or 5 sessions that were so good and had great, phenomenal speakers that you wanted to go to, but kind of packed at the same time. So it's hard to pick and choose which ones to go to. And that's why we want to kind of unpack it for everybody. So if you guys had to pinpoint maybe 1 or 2 of the breakout sessions that were the most impactful to you and just some of the lessons that you picked up in those sessions.
I loved Phil Jones, this book right here. And I bought this right when I came on board, exactly what to say. And he had one of his breakout sessions was the crucial conversations. And I was trying to write as fast as I could, but do you want me to share some of my
Sure.
key points? So he talked about how we are all born with this ability to ask for what we want. And then he tells this story about a toddler. Like a toddler will ask over and over again for something they want, whether it be ice cream or a toy, and they really want it, and they just keep asking. That is like in us to do that very thing. Of course, a toddler, if they don't get what they want, they'll throw a fit. And he kind of talks about, that's in us to ask for what we want. He also talked about fear and the acronym false evidence appearing real. And a lot of times that's what fear is. It's false evidence appearing real. And our minds will generate these like false narratives, and that'll cause us anxiety. It'll cause us to freeze. And then he talked about how fear is the fertilizer of growth. So, and then another thing that I thought I never really heard it this way, but he talked about shifting our perspective from best to better. So he talked about how when, he was little, he was trying really hard to tie his shoes. And he's like, his mom was like, hurry up, hurry up. And he's like, I'm doing my best, and he just couldn't tie his shoe fast and he couldn't do it. But he talks about when we can shift our mindset from best to better, we're always improving, right? And that was like a big mindset shift for me, was just keep doing better. Each day, just do better. Don't do your best, because we can never get to our best. So I loved that. And then he said, learning to talk to people is the greatest gift. Like if we can talk to people and truly like understand them and be curious about them and have empathy for them, that's the greatest gift we can give to the world, especially in this industry.
Yeah. How many of you have seen Phil Jones speak? Okay. If you haven't, you're missing out. If you log into KW Connect or Command and you go to Connect at the very top, you can look for one of his videos that he has, and he's the author of the book, Exactly What to Say. He has one specific for real estate as well. It's called Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. And it really helps you understand that language is actually a skill set that can be developed, and your language actually has certain persuasion abilities if you focus on it. And so a lot of your clients that you're working with, that you got to think of yourself as a coach or a consultant for your clients. And so when you're in a buyer consultation or a listing presentation, you've got to know what to say to help them break through maybe mental barriers or draw out of them what their roadblocks might be, so that you can properly coach them in the right way. And so that's one of the books that I would highly encourage everybody to double down on. And if nothing more, just go watch the Phil Jones video on KW Connect, because he is a master class when it comes to just persuasion and influence.
The honor notes from that class, if anybody wants them, let me know.
Awesome. Sweet. Jared.
One of my favorite breakouts that I went to was actually one that was meant specifically for agents in Keller Williams that either are in the military or have a spouse in the military. It was the most unique one that I went to the whole weekend or week. They started out by they just said, we're going to take the next 20 minutes and you have to go meet 20 people and have 21-minute conversations with people you've never met. And I got to meet people from all over the country, different walks of life, other people that have served in the military, different branches and stuff. And I just this morning finished putting them all into my command and sending an email to recap and say like, hey, it was great to meet you, and I'd love to do referral business, someday. And that alone was, really cool. And along with opportunities, they talked about volunteering as kind of a lead gen strategy, which was just a mind shift for me, because I've always thought like, oh, volunteering, that's something I'll do once I reach a certain net worth or something. Once I'm worth this much, then I'll have the time to do it. But then just that shift of like, no, if you can go and volunteer now, don't do it with the agenda of like, hey, I'm a realtor, what can you guys do for me? But do it as like, what can I do to serve in whatever group or organization that you have? And then they'll ask what you do eventually, and then you can serve them in your professional capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. One agent in our office, I feel like has done a phenomenal job. There's actually many agents that have done a great job, but the two that pop into my mind is Jen Jorgensen does a phenomenal job at just coming from a place of contribution, serving impact, and as a byproduct happens to sell a ton of real estate. And then Lane Thompson as well. And so both of those are just instant pop in my mind of people who they focus on charity, they focus on giving back to the community, but then they end up getting a lot of real estate from it. Sweet. Cam, I'm going to switch it up on you for a sec.
Okay.
I want to talk about CEO Summit. So Gary does this event before Family Reunion starts called the CEO Summit. And he basically, what he does is he'll find topics that he's interested in. So I actually love the kind of format that they've put together. So he finds topics that he's interested in, which was like health, wealth, marketing, these kind of things. And then he'll find the best people to speak on those topics, and then he'll just interview them in front of everybody. And it's kind of cool to see, and they'll have some talks that they give. But I would love to just get some of your top takeaways from the CEO Summit. Anything that came through for, I think we had 4 different speakers that talked on a wide range of topics. So just anything that really called to you during that session.
First off, the CEO Summit is better than Family Reunion, in my mind. I feel like I go to that and I'm like, okay, I could just be done. If I don't go to a single breakout, if I don't listen to anything Gary says, I have had 5 hours of like the top people teaching me about things.
Mhm.
And so I love it. A few things that stood out to me, they had.
Is his mic working? Can you guys hear him in the
You guys
back?
hear me? I need to
No.
record.
Can you pass him your,
I'm loud, but not.
not that loud?
How about now? Ooh, that's way better.
There we
Okay,
go.
so one of the things that was interesting is, like Shoni said, they usually have different like areas of life that come. They had 2 people talk about the customer experience. I don't know if either of them called it that. One said that's a made up word that doesn't really exist, which I thought was funny. But so Chip Heath is his name. He's written a couple of books. He's I like all of them. He was the least impressive speaker that was there. Like as he was talking, I was like, this is so boring, and all of the content is amazing. So he talked about the power of peak moments. So he gave the example, he calls it the Disneyland paradox, where if imagine if someone followed you around in Disneyland and every 15 minutes they're like, rank how you're feeling on a scale of 1 to 10. Like realistically, how many times are you going to say 10? Like 90% of the time, your kids are screaming, you're waiting in a line, it's too crowded, it's too hot. Like it is a miserable experience. By the way, I hate Disneyland because I remember all of those things. Yes. Sorry, Becca. Sorry, Becca. So, but what happens is most people leave Disneyland and they're like, that was such a fun family vacation. And the kids are like, that was the best day ever. And what you do is it's those peak moments that you remember. So you're not taking an average of every 15 minutes and average your score. You're taking an average of like the top few peak moments and however it ended. And so how does it end? It always ends with a family picture in front of the castle, everyone smiling and happy. And then you leave and you're like, I'm happy that I'm leaving. And so you have this great experience because you had a few cool rides, a few fun memories, and overall it wasn't a great experience, but it was because you're remembering it wrong. So, we have this opportunity a whole bunch in real estate, right? Like think how many things go wrong and how if you were to ask someone every day on a scale of 1 to 10 how awesome the real estate transaction is going, you're probably not going to get a 10 every single day, but you are going to get some 10s, and then you are going to have an ending with a closing. So it's very easy that we could just highlight those peak moments and that ending and do something awesome. So he asks the question, what peak moments should we be celebrating? And I like how he put celebrating. Cindy Yates, she does this thing when a buyer goes under contract, she goes to their house with balloons and confetti. I'm like, that's awesome. I would never do that. That's not me. That's very Cindy. But I'm like, that's a great thing to do. She is celebrating that moment. And she probably gets a bunch of referrals from those people that did something awesome like that. So I thought that was very, very interesting. The just focus on the customer experience. And I've been talking a lot. Can I talk more? Are you okay with that? Okay. The other one on the customer experience, maybe this is just what I need to hear. It's like when you go to church and you're just hearing the same thing over and over and you're like, this is what I needed to hear. And someone else is like, I got a different message. It's like, well, that's how it was maybe for me. So Jay Baer, I don't even know who he is, but he was like announced as the keynote speaker, as the coolest one out of all of them. But I don't know who he is. But he gave very good information of 3 things that you should be doing to have a better customer experience. He's done a lot of research and they figured out that clients care about 3 things more than other things, and that's speed. So he says, be quick with what you do. Clarity, you need to be very clear, and kindness, you need to be empathetic. And some of these stats are crazy. 51% of clients, this is not real estate, this is in the world. 51% of clients will hire the first person who contacts them. That is so crazy. So if you get a lead from like Zillow and you know that that went to like 3 other agents, if you contact them, there's a 50% chance that they will work with you just because you were first, regardless of price. Price doesn't matter. So I don't know what everyone charges for commission, but you could probably charge more. So then he talked about all of these. So those are the 3 things: be quick, be clear, be kind. And he said, you're not going to just overnight success change your business. So he said, what are 3 ways that you could be 15% better in each of those areas? And he called it design your 9. So you look at being quick, clear, and kind, and what are 3 things you could do in each of them? Now you have 9 things that you can go focus on to go change your business. And he said, don't do it crazy amounts, just 15%. And that will make a huge impact in your business. I'm like, I could do that. I got 15% in all of those. Maybe I'll be kind. Becca, I love Disneyland.
To double tap on that and then start thinking about top 10, or the 10 bold laws that Gary shared, some of the ones that came through for you guys. But one of the stories that Jay Bear shared that I thought was interesting and totally makes sense, but was on just the idea of being kind and how impactful that can be in the process of sales. Like one of the stories, what was the first company that he shared? Cameron, do you remember? It was not Chewy. Chewy is the one that he ended on, but it was a different.
Was it one of the airlines he talked about?
No.
He talked about Southwest, how they get creative in their safety presentation.
One of them was a
Delta.
company that sent a pretty bad, like a crappy customer support email back or response back to the client or customer. Do you remember that one? So he was trying to highlight the difference, right? Where a company just kind of used the good old like ChatGPT response of like, well, this is why our policies are that way. And we're sorry it wasn't like up to your standards, but that's how it is, basically, is what they had said. And then he showed a video of how many of you have pets? Anybody? A few of you? Okay. So if you're familiar with the company Chewy, they have a company kind of standard operating procedure where a lot of people will actually reach out to him and say, hey, my pet passed away and we've got all this food. It's not opened. Can we send it back to you? And the company says, hey, you know, basically it costs actually more for you to ship it to us for it to be even worth it. So just donate it. And what they do is they employ something like 1,000, 1,100, somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100 professional oil painters across the country. And so as soon as they get that notification that somebody's pet has passed away, they have a team that goes and looks on Facebook and Instagram to find a photo of that person's pet, and then they have the oil painter paint a picture of that person's pet, and then they mail it next day air. And so it showed a video of a woman opening this gift that she just got after her pet has passed away, and she just broke down in tears. And he's like, tell me how many other pet food companies she's going to spend $1 of business with over the next 30 years of her life. None, right? They've earned her business for life just from that one small act of kindness. And so just think of in the real estate kind of journey and process, it's such a high emotional process that clients go through. How can you just help them have a better experience? Kind of like what Cameron's talking about. Think about those moments where you can stage them having a 10 type experience, where they would rank it as a 10 in that moment. And how are you going to document it so they remember it? So just one little thing on that note, because that speaker really was impactful. So Gary talks about his 10 bold laws. And I'm going to throw them on the screen for those who are not familiar with them. And I'd love to get some perspective just on, because this actually was one of my favorite sessions, was just Gary's perspective on life. his belief systems and kind of just going through a storytelling process of how these principles can help you not only live a better life, but also build a bigger business, right? So what were some of the bold laws that stood out to you guys during that session?
I can go. Okay. One of my favorites is we fail our way to success. Lucky number 7. That one really spoke to me because I feel at my age, I have failed at a lot of things, and that is why I've succeeded. Because I just didn't give up. I just kept trying and trying and rerouting and, I've learned a lot. And so that one just spoke to me.
Yeah, me as well, because, we can often, we often find fault in ourselves like so easily. And we think that we're kind of down in the dumps because we're comparing ourselves to somebody that's further along, but we don't see kind of like the iceberg. We don't see the failures that are under the water that got them to rise up. So that one was also one I loved. I also loved number 2. We talked about life is an inside job. The basic point of that was that as we change ourselves, that's the only way that we can really change our environment around us. And so much of the time, we often blame our environment on why things are wrong in our life. I don't have this, or I don't live there, therefore I can't be whatever. But he talked about, I think it was in this same one where he talked about the Japanese principle of Kaizen, which is just small, consistent, incremental improvements to get you to where you want to go. And he shared a picture of 2 little guys climbing up a ladder. One is climbing up a ladder that has the normal spacing of rungs versus a ladder that has rungs spaced at every 6 feet. So unless you're a giant, the person that's trying to climb the 6-foot spaced ladder, you're never going to get as high as the one that's just taking the little steps one at a time. And that really spoke to me, just because so often I focus on the big milestones as being like, that's what I need to do, or that's what needs to happen. Whereas it's actually more important to do the small little steps every day and consistently. That's going to ultimately get you to where you want to be and achieve the goals that you want.
Number 4, the path is in the math. This is my favorite one. And it's because of Shoni. This is the first time ever in recorded history that I feel like I'm ahead of him in anything. And he texts me and he's like, "Hey, how are you tracking your numbers on this?" I was like, "Yes, I'm beating Shoni in something." But this has been on my mind a lot because I feel like, well, I guess number 3 too, what you focus on expands. And if you are tracking it, then you have some control on it. And so I've been very big into like, okay, what am I focusing on? And then track that. So let's see, I'm 110 days in a row of tracking everything I've eaten, except for one day I only tracked half the meals. I don't know what happened the rest of the days. And I just started to track all of my time that I'm spending. And I've been tracking my money for years and years, but I figure I need to focus on these other things because they will expand. If someone figures out how to track relationships, that will be a good one too. Let me know. Shoni's going to beat me on that one now. I know it. I'll be like, "Here's my spreadsheet."
I'll send it to you. Well, Cam, I want to reverse order now and just if you were to maybe pinpoint 1 or 2 things kind of encapsulating all that we absorbed at Family Reunion that agents can really focus on, where focus goes, energy flows, and what you focus on expands. So if they were to focus on one thing the next 3 to 6 months to make sure that they bulletproof their business in 2025, where do you think they should focus their energy?
Gosh, my answer is bigger than that. One of the things that Jay Papasan said is come up with your someday vision and work it backwards into your goals. And then that's what you should focus on every month, every week, every day every hour kind of an idea. So if you know where you want to go to, you can have a plan to get there. And you're going to need to track your numbers. You're going to need some coaching. You're going to need some accountability. You're going to need some things to help you get there. But if you don't know where you're going, then you can go anywhere, right? Whatever the Cheshire Sat said. So I would say define your vision in what you want your life to look like, and then figure out who you need to be, what you need to do, and then ultimately that will give you what you need to have.
Awesome. Jared and Sarah, so if you were to just say, here's the 1 or 2 action items that I'm coming out of family reunion with, and then I'm going to focus on deploying in my business, what are those things you're going to take action on?
That's the problem.
Yeah, so I took copious notes and had the Otter AI take notes too, and I've been reviewing those. And I just go through and I highlighted everything that was like, oh, this is a verb, that's something I can do. And I took those and put them in a to-do list, and it's pages long. But ultimately it's kind of all centered around changing your attitude and being consistent in your business and as you develop as a person.
Love it. Your perspective matters, and then just taking massive action. Cool. Great.
Yeah, at the beginning of this book, I put a little to-dos, and then I put a section that was books. So when one of these breakout sessions talked about a book, I wrote it down, because I'm always like, anytime you have a book or talk about a book, I buy it. Whenever Shoni does. So I have lots of his books. But yeah, I actually had a to-do list at the front of my little journal here. And mine, some are specific and some are going to be hard to track. One, I said to do something every day that scares me, because I feel like in life I was stuck for a while, and it's taken me a long time to get to where I am today. And there were a lot of things that contributed to that, but I was stuck. And the thing that got me out of it was I had a good friend who challenged me to do things, and we started hiking pretty much every day. And those hikes were really hard. And I got to a point where I was like, this is so good for me to get on a mountain, a peak. The peak experiences, that is a real thing for me. If I can get out of my comfort zone every day, and that doesn't just apply to hiking, it applies to life. Talking to someone that we're afraid to talk to, or, just every day we have opportunities to do something that scares us. So that was mine. And then I also had something more specific. I went to a social media breakaway. That one was good, that class. And I want to do more giveaways. I think giveaways are a great thing on social media. I've been really trying to get my social media dialed in this year, and I think giveaways are fun to do.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Love it. There was, I'm trying to remember her name. Remember Dr. Robin's last name? Okay. Dr. Robin Defoe, maybe. She was a phenomenal speaker at the CEO Summit. And one of the things that she talked about, which I think is the biggest encouragement I can give all of you coming out of this, is she had a life traumatic experience at the age of 16. I won't go to the whole story, but essentially was a near-death experience. And the one thing that actually saved her life was a reminder of what her mom used to tell her growing up, which is that you can do hard things. And so in that moment, she kept repeating to herself, you can do hard things, you can do hard things. And that actually saved her life. And so I just want you to, ending on Sarah's point, is just think about one, your mindset is what's most important in this market shift, but then also what actions are you going to take next? What are the strategies you're going to deploy? But it all starts with mindset. Tony Robbins talks about 80% of success is your psychology, only 20% is the mechanics or the actual strategies that you deploy. So that's the number one thing that I would encourage everybody coming out of this. And please be here next week. We're going to celebrate the top producing agents in the business, agents that are crushing it. And we'll have some cool stuff to roll out as well. One last thing. First, give the panel a round of applause. Thank you so much. Great to have you guys. This is our AI WhatsApp chat. So if you want to really master using artificial intelligence, you want to be in this group chat. This is where we're also going to later today throughout that competition that we mentioned a couple weeks back, where we'll be doing $500 to $1,000 prizes each month and distributing that to people who come up with the best AI prompts that they're utilizing or sharing the best AI tools and apps that are out there. So go ahead and join that chat. That's gonna be a fun conversation just to use technology to further your business. I wanna give some time to one of our amazing vendor partners. Go ahead and give a hand for Adam at Ibex Home Warranty.